After 9/11, there was a heightened awareness of the religion itself, but added to that was newfound suspicion and a growing wave of misinformation, which in the 19 years since has not dissipated. Anti-Islam hate crimes in the U.S. spiked after the attacks, and Muslims became a target of verbal harassment as well as increased airport security checks.
And 3 weeks after 9/11, an ABC News poll revealed that Americans had a more favorable view of Islam than unfavorable, at 47% favorable to 39% unfavorable. However, a decade later, that perspective changed dramatically. More than 60% of Americans expressed unfavorable views of Islam.
And Muslim Americans continue to be an influential demographic in the U.S. today. As we gear up for the 2020 election in November, more than 45% of Muslim respondents of a Council on American Islamic Relations survey would like to see policy changes in America in these 4 areas: international humanitarian crises, religious discrimination, Medicare for all, and gun control.
And on this episode of All Hands, we'll explore and celebrate the work of individuals in the Muslim community and try to dispel misconceptions about that community through shared experiences. To kick us off, we'll learn about LaunchGood, which is a crowdfunding platform focusing on the Muslim community worldwide. And joining us now is Imani Kalawi, co-founder and COO at LaunchGood. So great to have you with us here today. I loved learning about LaunchGood. So by focusing on the Muslim community, what has your platform been able to achieve since its founding in 2013?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I couldn't imagine speaking with 2 Muslim anchors either, so that was huge for me growing up. Really, for us in 2013, we started LaunchGood because we were just tired of defending and we were just craving building. And one of the exciting things for us was to build a platform that we felt could tell our stories, change the narrative around Muslims, and then practically help amazing projects actually happen, whether it's the first hijabi ballerina in Australia, or raising funds for Black churches that were burned down in the South, or just healthcare clinics in California for uninsured Americans. So that journey has been amazing for us in helping us raise over 130 million worldwide.
That is incredible to hear, and it sounds like the projects that you support are really across the board. So what is the process for a founder or an entrepreneur who does want to get started on your platform?
It's actually quite easy. You just go to launchgood.com, click Start a Campaign, and you're all set to go. You can also speak to anyone from our team at launchgood.com/consult. We know how hard it is to put yourself out there and raise funds, and we wanted to make that easier because it does feel quite challenging to ask for money, and we want to make that just a little bit easier.
And talk to me about kind of the landscape of businesses that cater to the Muslim community or are started by people within the Muslim community, and what you felt was missing in that market that really instigated the launch of this platform for you and your peers.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the space is changing a lot. It's come a long way the last 5 years. Within the last 5 years, you've seen companies like Muzmatch that focuses on Muslims trying to find love, surprise, surprise, or folks like Wahed Invest that focus on halal investing. You've got Hot Hijab that looks at making sure that there's a hijab for every part of your lifestyle as an American Muslim woman who might choose to cover. In our case, really felt that there was a missing in terms of just funding. You have a lot of great ideas, you have a lot of great projects, but oftentimes you need a little bit of seed funding just to kick it off, and we wanted to fill that void.
Yeah, so what are some of those challenges more specifically? I mean, we talk about this all the time, the challenges of raising funds if you are a woman, especially a woman of color, when most of the investors you're talking to, frankly, are older white men. What are some of the challenges that the founders and entrepreneurs that you've tried to support, what do they bring to you as some of the biggest hurdles that they've had to face?
Yeah, it's really quite challenging. I mean, I'll say even with our own journey, we actually tried to pitch twice. We went to Silicon Valley. Folks were like, it's cute. We're not sure. It feels too niche. We're actually terrible at our own fundraising 7 years ago. And we ended up finding angel investors, which was the case for many of our friends. You find an angel investor who will give you $10,000 to kick it off. In fact, that's the average size of a campaign on LaunchGood. And so LaunchGood has taken the place of that seed funding and angel investors. However, I will say the space has changed slightly. Many of those companies I just mentioned actually have been able to get seed funding between 2 to 7 million in the last 5 years. And so I think investors are actually paying attention, and they're noticing that, whoa, this is potentially 1/4 of the world. Maybe this is a demographic that we want to be part of.
Yeah, well, to that point, we do hear that oftentimes underrepresented groups have to have more empirical evidence, more metrics and statistics to support why investors should invest in their company and that particular demographic. You touched on this a little bit, but talk to me about the size and really the spending power of the Muslim community, not just in the U.S., but really globally.
Yeah, absolutely. So according to a study by Thomson Reuters, you're looking at over $6 trillion. And it tends to circulate around three areas. We call them the three Fs: fashion, food, and finance. Those are areas that touch every day for most Muslims, whether it's money or clothes or just what you want to eat and what you might order from Uber. And so those are the three areas that we've seen have really started to kind of expand and balloon.
Naimani, in a previous interview, you said, quote, "I do think that Muslims should ride this wave of people feeling it's cool to be Muslim. We experienced a Trump bump, meaning our numbers did better in the election year because people rushed to support us in light of rising Islamophobia." I love that quote from you. Do you feel this is still relevant today, and how has sentiment towards the Muslim community really changed in the last several years?
Yeah, I think the quote is still relevant today, although the bump might have since dissipated because it's now the new normal, unfortunately. But the sentiment is still there, and I think that we're going to continue to see this. As you mentioned earlier, we've seen hate crimes on the rise. Unfortunately, that's the case. However, anytime you have scenarios where you've got rises in hate crimes or challenges like that, you see crowdfunding respond to that. And crowdfunding, whether it's bigger platforms like GoFundMe and others, are essentially just a way to respond to what's happening in the world. And so naturally, you'll see those highs and lows depending on what's happening in our world today.
Yeah, and Imani, you touched on this a little bit, but highlight to me some of the businesses that have come out of Launch Good, what you're most excited about, perhaps the ones that have the most growth opportunity going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite businesses was called Asia, that focused on sport hijabs for Muslim women. I particularly am very fond of that. Played sports growing up. There are two other campaigns that I'd say are less so business, but still one of my favorite. Back in 2000, I want to say in 2015, we had the first viral campaign, which was raising funds for Black churches in the South, where the Muslim community came together. And that was one of my favorite campaigns because it was a very beautiful show of goodwill and saying that, hey, we hear you, we see you, we're here with you. And then the third campaign, I would say that would be my ultimate favorite, is helping the first Muslim female fencer, Ibtihaj Muhammad, helping her family join her at the Olympics and helping her represent for Team USA. Those are probably my ultimate three favorite, which is a hard choice considering over 10,000.
Yeah, those all sound so amazing. Lastly here, what advice do you have for people who might not be as familiar with Islam, with the Muslim community, in how they can help to support founders, entrepreneurs, and those who are trying to make a difference in that community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first place you can start is go to launchgood.com, go to launchgood/100, check out some really cool projects. And I think get a chance to see that Muslims have some of their own needs. And I think sometimes that helps people humanize others when they say, okay, well, someone's struggling to find a partner, or someone is struggling to find something that they can eat, or someone is struggling to find clothes that match their lifestyle. And so I would say start there. That's a great place to get a sense of what the community is, how diverse it is. It's not a monolithic, but also a great place to emerge in terms of just your own curiosity and what you might discover. You might actually be surprised to find there's more in common than you think.
Very well said. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the work that you're doing to support the Muslim community. That's Imani Kalawi, co-founder and COO at Launch Good.